wait, hold everything and watch this video before you go out and buy that fancy, expensive camera that you have been eyeballing. Or if you already have a fancy camera and you're thinking of upgrading that fancy camera, you also need to watch this video because it might not be the camera. It might be the lens that you need to invest in. I'm gonna tell you why in today's video when I go over the best lens for beginners. This is legit the second most asked question I probably get following which camera should I buy as a beginner. The second most asked question once they have a camera is, what lenses should I have? And today I'm gonna be going over the absolute best lens for beginners. And I'm also going to give you some really solid advice if this is your first camera purchase, what to do. So stick around for that because you do not want to buy a camera that's in those kits. Let me just say it. Don't buy a camera that's in a kit. I have a better option for you, and I'm going to explain that in this video. If we haven't met yet, hi, I'm Kayla Brent. I'm a motherhood photographer and founder of Mom Photography School, where I teach moms to take gorgeous everyday photos of their family. And of course, it starts with the camera. We got to have a camera to take pictures, and with that camera it has to have a lens, and I'm going to be telling you about my number one recommended lens, and that is the 50mm lens. There's so many reasons I love this lens, and I'm going to go into every single one of them, but in the comments below let me know which lenses are in your camera bag and which ones are your favorite. And if you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel where I drop a new video every single Tuesday. First off, the 50mm lens is really great for beginners, and I'm gonna go off with a very obvious reason, is it's super affordable. The price has fluctuated over the years. Right now it's around $200 to $250, which is extremely affordable compared to other lenses. My favorite lens is the 24-70. It's very big and bulky, but it has a really wide zoom range, a really wide focal length range. I love it. It costs around $2,000. So that is not the best lens for beginners. That's a little overkill. So this is my favorite lens. My second favorite lens is the 50mm, and it's not just because it's affordable. It just happens to be affordable, which leads me to the next reason I really love the 50mm lens and why I always recommend it. And that is, it is extremely good in low light. The 50mm, depending on which one you get, some are 1.8, some are 1.2, but that is just the aperture. And the aperture is the hole in the camera lens, not in the camera, but in the camera lens. And the aperture of this 50mm lens can get really big. And what that allows is you to shoot in really low light. Aperture is one of the most fun components of manual mode because it does a lot of really great things in photography. I teach all about this in my free class, The 4 Keys to Manual Mode. I will link that below if you are interested in learning more about manual mode and you have no idea what I'm talking about when it comes to aperture and all the things. Make sure that you check that out, and I also have YouTube videos about aperture. But anyways, the 50mm has a really wide aperture. And the thing is, it seems like the lenses, the wider the aperture, so the lower that number, so 1.8 is a really low number, the higher the price point is. If you get a lens that has a really wide aperture, it seems like the dollar amount goes higher and higher and higher. Except for the 50mm. The 50mm, even with its wide aperture, it is extremely affordable. So it works really well in low light. It does some other cool things, which I'm not gonna go into in this video. You can check out my other one about aperture on that. But it's fantastic, and it checks all the boxes. Low light, great blurry background, which that's a part of what the aperture does. I go over that free video. So literally it's checking all the boxes. And my final reason for really loving the 50mm is it's super tiny. It's only about this big compared to this big, huge lens. I love this lens. My 24 through 70mm never leaves my camera. However, it's really nice to have a much smaller lens. It can go in a smaller bag. It's not as heavy. There's a whole lot of reasons why the 50mm lens is so great. And remember that at the beginning of this video, I said, if you have not bought a camera yet, you need to watch this. This is the part that you need to watch. I recommend not buying those kits. So those camera kits, they have the camera body and it might have 1 or 2 lenses. I don't recommend doing that. Those lenses are not the best lenses, and very rarely do you see a kit that has a 50mm in it. It'll have like some kind of zoom, and the aperture is really not very low. It's not good. They are not my favorite lenses. Instead, what I recommend doing is buying the camera body and the 50mm separate. So down below, I have linked my favorite Nikon and Canon bodies that are the best for beginners, along with the 50mm lens that fits on there. I recommend going that route instead of paying for a lens that you're really not gonna use. This might cost you just a little bit more money, but really not that much, because eventually you're gonna want a better lens anyway, so go ahead and grab that 50mm. If you have any questions about what photo equipment that you need, comment below. I would be happy to help, whether you are a mom just wanting to take better pictures of your kids, or if you are getting into photography, maybe it's something you're wanting to do professionally. Comment below and I would be happy to answer those questions for you. Until next time, friends, I will see you in the next video. Bye, y'all.